treat people accordingly of how they invest in you, because they're not investing necessarily in a property or in a deal. As a passive investor, they're investing in an idea that you can provide them a trust enough to give their money to you and invest in that property. Of course, it's a real estate property based through what you believe in. And if they see what the results I have with them, that's how they're going to trust me. And this is a matter of communication, first of all, and how you communicate with people on those deals. And, things are not going well all the time.
Welcome to the Power of Passive Income and How to Retire Rich with your host, Vijay Patel. Get your financial advice straight from the experts and learn how to take your first steps towards financial freedom. If you're ready to retire rich, then listen up.
Good morning, everyone. We have Tudor in the house, and thank you for joining this morning. I know it's early, and let's get started without failing. So we just want to introduce, he is an anesthesiologist and still practicing, but we have some incredible stories to tell and how he made his journey, because this is the show all about, making that transition from 9 to 5 or getting stuck in W-2 to having that financial freedom. So we'll be talking with him, sharing his journeys, lessons, and then, down the road, we'll be asking some questions. So if you can, take some minute to introduce yourself, and let's get started.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Vijay, for having me on. It's a pleasure, and I hope your audience will have some good insights from our conversation. My name is Tudor Francu. I'm a doctor. I'm an anesthesiologist. I live in Maryland presently, close to Annapolis, and I direct right now 2 medical practices in this space, mostly in the surgical center, outpatient procedures. The story that I had was interesting because I think for your audience, it means a lot of how you can progress from being a professional like myself, getting into real estate space and build up this passive income so you can free up more of your time. Shortly, I'm an immigrant from Romania. I came here when I was 28 years old with nothing. I had no money. I had no knowledge. I didn't know anybody. Just came here and tried to start a new life, basically. After a communist country, living for the first 28 years old, came here and had no clue what's happening. I didn't know what the debit card was. I didn't know what a credit card was. It was very hard for me to even speak the language or understand, or, it was a culture shock, basically. And I tried to, take step by step, educate myself as much as I could, and, go from there. I was a doctor. I started doing all kinds of jobs in the beginning, small little things that can help me survive for a while, and then build up my career from that point on. And I had the privilege, one of the little jobs I had was to work for a guy who was in the financial space, and help him out as an assistant. And I learned a lot from him about the financials in the United States, and that's how I started educating myself of the terms of, what financial education means. I remember the first time I heard the name, the phrase cash flow was from him, and I was like, "What is cash flow?" And that's how I started reading about it, and later on, he helped me a lot of understanding a lot of terms that we're going to talk about. Then, progressively, I start practicing medicine, get into a residency program, become an anesthesiologist, moved to Maryland from New York. And I realized that I want to do and explore this financial side more and more. I was very happy in my job. I had a great, W-2 income, and high income, so to speak. And, from that point on, you start thinking, well, I do have a lot of income and make a lot of money, but it's going to be hard because I realize that I'm going to pay a lot of taxes on those money. And the more money you make, the more time you spend to make that money. So, little bit, few questions kind of arise in my mind at that point of how can I improve this picture for myself. And I was lucky enough in the first year, early years, early 2000, I think it was 1998, something like that, when I had the opportunity of attending one of Robert Kiyosaki's seminars. And this was early on. We're talking about him and his wife getting on the talking points and by themselves and teaching people. And there was very small group, so to speak. And I was very fortunate. I didn't realize what I had at that time. Now I do. I got to know him personally. Cash Flow game just came out, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad book was just printed. So that book fascinated me and kind of changed my whole perspective of what I need to approach, how I need to approach financials from that point. And I realized that I was, almost 30 something years old at that time. And I realized that many of the natives here, Americans, are not financially educated in school. So, you start off with a handicap being an immigrant, but it was not really a handicap because I started educating myself. And I think everybody can do that at this point. And especially now, 20 something years later, where we have access to all the resources and internet and, YouTube and everything at our hands, basically, we can educate ourselves and do the best we can for our time. So, going back there, after I attended those seminars and start playing the cash flow game, I'm a big fan of Monopoly, by the way. I built up my own game in Romania. Well, I didn't have it, to buy it from, and I just built it up myself and play. And it was a very simple principle, right? You buy some greenhouses from your active income, from your salary, that you later on get some rent on, and then you build up a hotel, and you sell those houses and you build up and you buy a hotel, and then the rent increases. And that's how you win the game, by winning more streets and more neighborhoods, right? And that can very easily be applied in life. And that's what I did, basically. So I went back to my job, my W-2 job as a doctor, and I said, well, I'm making a lot of money as an anesthesiologist. How can I maximize my tax savings and also start investing? And at that time, I started with single-family homes, one after another, maybe twice, 2 houses a year, or maybe 3 houses a year and stuff like that. And it was just a build-up of investment. Everything I made, I put up in real estate space, and I built up a pretty good portfolio of single-family homes over the years by just doing that. It helped me a lot with cash flow and getting passive income from those rents, and also tax advantages for my W-2 income. And it was a very good combination of like applying Monopoly in the real life, and also get more than Monopoly can offer, which is tax advantages, appreciation of those assets that you buy, depreciation of them on the tax returns, and a lot of cash flow.
Got it.
So there are 4 things that basically are getting together to make yourself more money.
Understand. You had an incredible story to tell for sure. Especially like we take so many things for granted, but at the same time, like anybody can achieve financial freedom, being come from no matter what the background is, right? Like you can start with zero money or even negative money, but it all starts with the mindset. Like once you have a right mindset, and maybe surround people with the right mindset, and one good book that I would always recommend is A Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so far I have interviewed 7 people, and all of them have read it or had some impact in their own personal life and to some degree for educating financial freedom, whether it's cash flow, understanding business quadrant, or how the self-employed thing works. Because at the end, it's all about knowing the game, because you are playing, you like it or not, you are in the financial game, right?
Yes.
You get butchered, or you get to be on the other side. It's
exactly
just story you have to the side you have to pick and choose and play with of course the rule that government mandates, but there's so much free ground to play if you know where to go and how to play, right? So
yeah, absolutely. It's totally a mindset game. Think about this. You spend a lot of time to make a lot of money.
Yes.
Or to try to make a lot of money. And at the end, all you do is convert that huge amount of money that you have to buy yourself time.
Yes.
And sometimes people wait till they're retired, 65, 70 years old, and try to buy that time back. And it's very hard to do because, we're all getting old, right? And there's some things that we cannot possibly do at that age that we want to do when we're younger. So the sooner you start playing that game, the better it's going to be for you, and buy yourself more time. We all have 24 hours in a day, so it's a matter of how we structure that 24 hours for ourselves.
So since you did a single family for so long, there's a saying, right? Trash, toilet, and tenants. So let's share some of the learning lessons you gained from those things.
Yes. Well, it's interesting with single family homes because it's a little different concept than multifamily, right? With a single family, you have to deal with one resident, one tenant in your house, in that apartment or townhome, whatever it is. And when the tenant leaves, you have zero occupancy for a while. So you go from 100% to zero. And then this is what I found out basically over the years with single family home portfolios. They gave me a lot of cash flow, and there was a good investment in appreciation and passive income. But also it was a hard thing to overcome when a tenant left, because there was a lot of renovations to be made. Sometimes horror stories, like you said, sinks taken, plumbing destroyed, walls destroyed, and I'm sure the toilet mystery for everybody who wants to do single family homes, it's a total true mystery. Wow. I became very good of unclogging toilets over time. I can tell you that. But that's one step, and there was a little I would say price to pay over the benefits of investing in real estate. But this is when I realized that you can scale up. You can basically go over that hump of having a zero occupancy when your tenant left and invest into something bigger and expand your mindset and say, well, I spend a lot of time and a lot of money to buy one home with one tenant. I can do the same thing with the same amount of money and the same amount of time, but buy more units with more tenants. With all of a sudden, you scale up exponentially on that cash flow with the same time and the same amount of money. invested. So all of a sudden, the multifamily becomes very attractive because you all of a sudden start leveraging other people knowledge, other people time, other people money, and then you create a team that everybody benefits from. And we're all good at something. We're not good at everything, right? So different people have different skills, and getting into a team like that, you can leverage everybody's skills to perform well for that property. And this is where multifamily became attractive to me, and say, okay, well, not only I can scale up and maximize the amount of time that I'm spending investing in real estate and getting profit out of it, but also improve a lot of people's lives by doing that. Not only just one tenant with one house. By renovating those apartment buildings, you create a good living conditions for a lot of families. And for me, this was one of the most important things, because I came from a communist country. I'm a little more sensitive of how people live and, the living conditions in those places. And when I see apartment buildings that are can be renovated and can be improved for those families to have a better life, that's my primary thing for me. And from that point on, everything comes with it. You can increase the rents once you improve the property. People are happy to pay you more money to have good washer and dryers, a good dog park, a good child playground, a good functioning pool. God forbid, I've seen apartment buildings with, gorgeous pools that are now working.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just little things that can improve, families' time, and their homes there. They live there.
Yep.
All the time.
Just a basic thing like parking lots, the broken parking lots, or
exactly.
The beige color buildings where roof is matching with the walls. I still don't get the concept. I was talking to a couple of friends, and they say, oh, that's an 80s style, but why would you paint a roof with the same wall and just make it even? It's just so black, right?
Exactly.
What do you do to your house? So if somebody else is living, they are looking at the building all day long, right? So
absolutely.
Some basic stuff which improves the quality of life. And one more thing I would add in what we do in our project is safer communities and safer neighborhoods. So not only improving the property, but also our goal is to make the community and neighborhood safe by any means of installing automated gates, passcode protected, installing cameras, having some control thing. So those things will definitely be appreciated by tenants too, because their kids live there, right? They have their
absolutely.
So
that's a basic principle, Vijay. I think we all know this by now, and this is one of my principles of investing in multifamily right now, is that you are not in here to make money for yourself.
Yep.
You are here to improve someone else's life, and then obviously you're gonna make money in the process, but that should be the primary focus, because that's the fundamental mission that we have, to renovate those apartments, increase their value, not only for the tenants, but for the community itself. You think about driving up in a neighborhood and you see one of those rundown apartment buildings, what can you expect from there? You're not going to make money off of that. Tenants are not living well there. It's obvious that something needs to be done. So this is where we come from, with all the teams that we have, and you improve that community and the tenants, obviously you're going to make a profit from it, but it shouldn't be the other way around.
Yeah. When you do the first part, the profit will automatically happen, right? Yes. Even when I enter into real estate, it was a mindset of profit, but then I had some great mentors, and I had that switch that, okay, you take care of this, automatically your bottom line will be added. You don't have to focus on that. But if you focus too much on the bottom line, you may be leaving on, cutting corners or doing something that will add value, but you're not doing it because you are so much concerned about your bottom line.
That's very true. And this is another thing that I would definitely encourage your audience to do. And it made a big difference for me. Remember, I started in a single family by myself. And it took me a long time and many years to build up a portfolio.
Yep.
In multifamily, when I transitioned from single family to scale up, I got a mentor.
Yep.
And that make a big difference because you leverage other people's knowledge and this person experience that he did, in over 10 years. I can do it in 1 year. And
the knowledge,
you go from 0 to 10 in a much faster time than by yourself.
Especially like you learn from their mistakes, right? And that's one thing that will eat up your time more than your progress, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the price you pay for those mentorship programs or mentor time or anything like that, it's very small compared to what your benefits are from that. You basically pay for time.
Yeah, just to like 2 minutes for our audience is like, see, Tudor or me did not become who we are in like 1 year. It's a journey that you have to go through. So one thing you always have to keep in mind is we both started as a passive investor at some point, just to learn the game. And like for you, it would be the best thing because nobody's going to open up their books in front of you unless you are involved in the game, right?
No, and obviously, I knew a lot about real estate from single family space. And when I decided to scale up to multifamily, that's what I did. I started investing passively in a lot of deals with a lot of people just to know the people, know the terms, know the groups, create a trusting relationship between us and see how that works out. And once I start having an inside view of how the business is doing and what the protocols are and how the communication goes, you have a different perspective, right? And as a passive investor, and your show is geared to passive investing, right? So I would definitely tell people to try that avenue first of investing passively with several groups and see how that goes. It's not money that you're going to lose. It's hard to lose money. Remember, in real estate, 98% of billionaires are in real estate, right? They're not in stock market. So that's the beauty of real estate. It's hard to go wrong with it because it's a real asset. So besides going passively with those groups, then you realize that you can do something. If you want to become a general partner and do your own deals, that's an extra step that you can take, but only after you have exposure to how another general partner behaves to you as a passive investor, as a limited partner, right? And that's what I learned a lot from, because
plus you are joining the team, right? And real estate is always a team sport. So when I was investing, I was monitoring all the guys, right? So there may be 5-6 guys and everybody has a role to play. Somebody was a deal finder, somebody was the property management, somebody was boots on the ground, somebody was the capital raiser. So I try to analyze each and every individual and then try to relate myself that, okay, which of these characteristics I can fit myself in, right? And then I try to identify those things and try to refine my skills just based on that. And I'm sure that's what you did too.
Yeah, obviously, I noticed a lot of things that I didn't like to how I was treated as a passive investor. And I liked a lot of things that I saw with some groups that I really liked. So I transfer all those experience into what I am now as a general partner in a few deals. We just closed the fourth deal I'm in yesterday. So it's possible. If I'm a 28-year-old immigrant coming into the United States with no English and no knowledge, and 30 years later, almost, where I am right now, everything is possible. It's just a mindset game, right? Especially for people that are starting out right now, thinking about real estate investing and passively investing in it. Take the first step. Take action.
Yep.
It's possible, and you will do well if you keep at it. Be consistent, be disciplined, educate yourself, and try to have a positive attitude towards a calculated risk investment, right? Because everybody will say, well, I'm not sure if I should put money in this or that or whatever. The more you wait, the more is going to come against you. Real estate investing is a long-term game that can give you a lot of benefits, but it's not a quick get-rich-quick game.
Yeah.
So you have to be persistent, you have to be consistent, and know and educate yourself of who you're investing with and what are the benefits by doing that.
Yeah. And one thing is it's a transition. So always have a mindset that I'm making a transition, and transition never happens overnight. So
right.
Whether it's W-2 employed making $60,000, $100,000, but just have that transition mindset that, okay, next year I'm going to take away 25%, then second year, 30%, 40%, 50%. And once you get to the 50% of your saving, that's where the numbers will start making sense. And, if you follow Warren Buffett, the power of compounding is something that real estate offers so much, along with depreciation. So again, this is one thing that we always talk in my group is real estate is a index fund, which will give you the best return against inflation. If you consider any funds that you're trying to monitor or try to put your money in, and you compare with the real estate, it will give you even better return with security backed by real estate. As you mentioned that, 98% of the time, things will not go wrong. Maybe there's a depreciation, decrease in price or decrease in value, but it's not going to be I have yet to see less than 30% drop in real estate value. This is worse. I'm talking about a worst case scenario where real estate property value will drop 30% and there's a blood on the street, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It won't be more than that. So your 70% is still secure compared to a stock, which will get zero or delisted, and then you lose your all lifelong savings. And I've seen some horror stories of wiping off 401k retirements, right? So
yeah, I had a couple of examples in my among my colleagues in the past that they were 1 or 2 years before retirement, and the stock market crashed.
Yeah,
they couldn't retire for another 10 years. Yeah, and that's devastating for people. You're betting on your future on something that you cannot control. There's completely out of your control. And it's a paper asset, right? So once you start playing that game, it's a lottery, really. I mean, think about this. You go to Bank of America, right? That's the typical example I'm giving to people. You go to Bank of America, and you can buy their stock on a free market, right? That the Bank of America would not lend you money to buy their own stock, but would lend you money to buy any piece of real estate in this country.
Yeah.
Because they know they're not secured on their stock, and they know that themselves they're putting money in real estate.
Yeah. So let's talk about mentality of rich and wealth. That's what I think we initiated the talk with. So let's talk about that. What do you see a difference between being a rich and wealth, and what is a mindset, and like strategies that people can use to be wealthy, not just being rich?
Yeah. It's a very interesting subject, and people tend to compare those two, and it's really not the same thing. You can be rich by different ways. You can win the lottery tomorrow, and you're rich. You can have a very high income, but it's on W-2, and you pay a lot of taxes from it. And you buy your toys and your objects and whatever you want to buy out of your active income. That's a rich person, right? By all it means. When you make several $100,000 a year or whatever it is, and you consider yourself rich,
Lamborghinis.
right? And you buy your Ferraris out of your income, right? Comparison is being wealthy, where what you're counting on is your net worth, so to speak. And net worth is not only, I want to make a little difference here, because net worth is the value of your assets, right, compared to your liabilities. But it's also, like people say, net worth, it's your network. Those people that are wealthy have a very strong network of people around them, and they surround themselves with people that are better than them. They pull themselves up, and they strive to excellence.
Yeah.
And that's what a wealthy people are. They're building their income of not active income, but passive income. Cash flow out of their investments. What they do basically, it's a very simple principle we talked about earlier, is transforming their active income, investing in some good income producing assets, either is real estate or businesses or whatever you want, income producing assets that will bring automatically a passive cash flow to them. And then from that passive cash flow, they buy their Ferraris.
Yes.
Right? So it's a cycle. It's not a straight shoot from your income. And that's what the difference mainly is between a rich and a wealthy person.
And plus, like, also building up relationship along the side. So me and my cousin were talking, like, and this is an incredible story. Like back in the days when Henry Ford became Henry Ford, he was getting interviewed by a Forbes. So the guy asked him, like, let's say you lose everything tomorrow morning, like you get a phone call that everything is wiped off and you have to start from zero. How long it will take you to build a Ford, what the Ford is today, from ground zero? And he took a couple of minutes, and then he says like 2 years. So a guy who built a Ford, which is a manufacturing giant, and it took him like almost 10 to 12 years to get there to that point.
Yeah.
But now his answer is like 2 years. And then like the interviewers were shocked. So like he said, okay, can you explain, how can you get there? He says like, I would really bank on the relationship that I have made in that 15 years. And that is something that is going to get me to where I want to be in 2 years compared to 15 years.
Exactly. That's a great example. Yeah, it's that, because that's what their net worth is their network, right? Yeah. It's people you know and you surround yourself with. And I would challenge everybody to think twice of what they have in their lives right now and who are the 5 people they surround yourself with.
Yes.
And what kind of synergy do you have among those people?
Yep.
If they bring you up or they bring you down.
Yep.
Because that makes a big difference in how you approach your whole life, right? It's and I found this over the years being here in a different country, right? Starting from not knowing anyone to start having a big network of people that not only I can go to for advice, they come to me for advice, and we build wealth together.
Yes. Because the story is like, if you like count 5 of top of your friends, and if you average it out, you will be in average. You are average of that 5%.
Exactly.
So, like, you definitely want to go back and analyze that. So moving forward in the show, what we want to talk about is a failure and learning lesson, because personally, I believe there's no success without failure. So let's talk about it, like, the failures you had, like not necessarily go in detail, but some learning lessons. And that's what we want to know more in this show.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, being an immigrant here, coming when I was 28, I faced failures from the beginning. I started working in small little jobs that I could do just to support myself and go along until I secure my residency position. And I wouldn't consider a failure. I don't consider things failures, because bringing you down in a moment in your life is the only way to progress and to get up and grow. That's the only way, because you need to have a perspective of where you are at any point and see and think big, right? So the only way, if you have a failure, so to speak, failure or setback, I would say, every kick in the butt is a step forward, right? So, think about this way. Don't consider things as failure, just as setbacks that can propulse you 10 times faster forward. So, after that, I had a couple of setbacks, I would say, with people that you connect with. And you realize after a while that they're not the type of people you want to hang out with, because their mindset is different. And over the years, what I learned is that you have to select, especially in business relationships and stuff like that, select people that are having a certain type of mindset. And that would bring you up more than you can do it by yourself. Mm-hmm. As a failure necessarily, I think, in terms of, not recognizing the power of real estate investing soon enough. And I dabbled, before I started investing in single families, I dabbled with like stock market and, trying to, make money off of that. And I lost a big amount of money because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have control over what I was doing. Even if I knew what I was doing, I didn't have control of it. So it was a big failure, so to speak, for me. That's when you realize that you need to have a calculated risk of your investment. And calculated risk means that you need to put your money in things that are real value and real assets. Kiyosaki says that it's a fundamental difference between an asset and a liability. And if that would people understand, primarily, that would help a lot of people how they start investing. Because an asset is something that puts money in your pocket, right? And a liability is taking money out of your pocket. And that's what, he gives the example of primary residence, right? It's not an asset, it's a liability, because you pay mortgage to the bank. It's not your house after all, it's bank's house. But that's a small example.
Yep. So the thing is, like, failure is not a failure as long as you learn from it. That's the bottom line. Like, in every successful person you take, they learn from those mistakes, right? Like, okay, I made this mistake, why I did it, and now what can I do so that it doesn't happen again? Those are the things, and that is the mindset you always want to have, moving forward. And that once you have that zone of mindset, then the only way, things will happen to you is going up, not going down, for sure.
Yes.
So another thing we wanted to talk about is like, since you have been, in multifamily, let's talk about some stories that you have helped investors by having them invest passively in your like projects, and how have you changed their life or securing their financial freedom?
Yes. That's an interesting question, because I had people, asking me, how did you do it? How did you start from single family homes and go to multifamily? And how can I do this also? And I explained to them, like we talked about earlier, right? I started investing as a passive investor in some other deals with some other people. And the way I saw how they communicated with us as passive investors, how they approach an investor, how they, being transparent with what's happening with the investment, with the property, that made a big difference for me on how I treat people now and how I treat my investors now. And this is a very important thing for me. It's about trust, and it's about responsibility for someone else's money.
Yes.
You are not a trader. You are not a stock trader on the stock market. You're not a salesperson. You are someone who people believe in and trust you with their money. And that's how I take this as a big responsibility on my shoulders right now on the deals that I've done so far, that you need to treat people accordingly of how they invest in you, because they're not investing necessarily in a property or in a deal as a passive investor. They're investing in an idea that you can provide them a trust enough to give their money to you and invest in that property. Of course, it's a real estate property, but it's through you, through what you believe in. And if they see what the results I have with them, that's how they're going to trust me. And this is a matter of communication, first of all, and how you communicate with people on those deals. And, things are not going well all the time. They're not.
Being honest and transparent.
Right?
Yeah.
This is life. I mean, some things go well, some things don't go well. Yeah. And it's out of your control, or, something catastrophic happens with a property, or, hurricane, like whatever other things that you don't have control of, but you need to be able to communicate with people of what's happening, what the implications are, what the solutions are, and how you treat those solutions, and what the plan is. Because ultimately, nobody expects to be perfect, but everybody expects to have a good communication out of it and let them know what's going on. And that's why we try, and every single deal we have, we try to have a monthly newsletter about, what the financials are, what's happening on the property, what the challenges are, and what the solutions are for those challenges. And then, from that point on, you have conversation one-on-one with each of the investors and answer their questions, because some people have different focuses than the others. Some people want more cash flow. Some people don't care about cash flow. They want, proceeds when they sell the property. Or somebody doesn't really care about what's going on with their money. And, at the end, they just want the tax advantages out of it. So each person has a different focus. So you need to address each of them individually and say, okay, what is your primary goal with this investment?
Yes.
Because when I approach an investor, it's not like, oh, I have a deal, come on over with me. I'm saying, look, I have a deal, and what are you looking for? Are you looking for a better cash flow? Are you looking for a better outcome at the end? You want more tax advantages? You want more depreciation? What are you looking for here? And based on that, I can tell them, listen, this might not be the best solution for you because the cash flow is not that high here, but we have a big upside at the end, or we have a big cost segregation and you're going to get a lot more tax savings out of it. So depending on what type of deal, you have different types of investors, but you need to talk to them.
Yes.
And people forget this sometimes. And I had my experiences with some general partnerships teams in the deals I invested in where nobody talked to me. And, I was like, well, let me see how this goes, but I won't invest with them again. So this makes a big difference for people. And that's why I'm fortunate enough that I have some people that can trust me and see my record and say, well, things are not going perfect all the time, but we communicate very well and we have an open line of communication. And if something goes wrong or the investor has a question, I address it immediately and I try to get an answer for him. We're going to have on one of our investments from last year, we're going to have a 1-year anniversary. And I try to stress all the time that investor needs to be updated. So we're going to have a big meeting, 1-year anniversary with all investors and let them know how the property is doing, very detailed. Maybe some people want to go and see the property, themselves and show them around. And you need to be in touch with people because this is a people business. It's not a real estate building business. It's a people business. It's about investors and it's about tenants.
Yes. Thank you so much. I think we can talk all day long, but
yes.
So it was very nice talking to you. Thank you so much for your time, and definitely had some value added for our audience with your incredible story and with your incredible knowledge. And we can definitely catch up some more time, and then we can have some more QA sessions where people can join or people can ask, and we can definitely have some Facebook Lives down the road.
Sure.
But for today, I think thank you for your time, and
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you very much, Vijay. I hope your audience got something out of it.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye.